Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about something that really I didn't know if I wanted to do this video, but I am going to say this. I think this is going to be one of my last videos concerning this thing about the Epstein files, because I want to say it's so dark that it really is so negative, so dark. But here's the thing. We all want to know the truth. But you know what? Sometimes when we find out the truth, it's like you wish you didn't find it out because it is so dark. That's kind of the way this is for me. And I'm just going to show you Ghislaine Maxwell's chart just so you can get a feel of the astrology more than anything, because her chart speaks volumes about who she is and what this whole scandalous thing is about. So I'm going to show you her chart. It's pretty revealing and amazing how astrology works. So we're going to be looking at her chart. Now, before I get going, I want to remind everyone that if you don't sign up for my newsletter, you are missing out. It's completely free. You can go to my website, galacticcenter.org, sign up for my free newsletter, and with that, you'll be knowing everything that I predict written out, sent to your email every week. So that's galacticcenter.org. While you're there at my website, check out my Patreon. Now, we go into the depths, probably way too much with all these kind of things, but we really, it's a spiritual community that we talk with each other, get answers, and most of all, focus in on healing, because that's what we're all here for. We're not here just to go into these deep, dark places of conspiracy and scandal, but we need the truth. And with the truth, that's where we can heal. But I'll tell you, this is something that you and I do not have a part in, I hope. Yeah, and we need to be focusing on more positive things, which I'm going to bring to you. But before I do, I know everybody's wondering about Ghislaine Maxwell and what's it all about? What is the truth? I'm here to give it to you. So here's where I'm going to scoot over and show you Ghislaine Maxwell's chart. Here we go. Let's put up Ghislaine Maxwell's chart. And as we look at her chart, we do have a birth time. But remember, whenever I'm looking at a chart, I also look to the moon sign as well, because people can't wrap their head around the fact that the ascendant will give you what's going on in a person's life primarily. But the moon sign will tell you how they feel. And actually, it's almost more relevant from the moon. And what it does is it gives you more information. It doesn't contradict. They don't contradict each other. They just give you more information. So with that at hand, I'm going to be looking at her chart from the moon as well as the ascendant. But starting with the ascendant, Ghislaine is a really complicated person. Her ascendant sits in Taurus, but you can't help but notice she has 4 planets in the 8th house, and the planet that rules her ascendant, which is Venus rules Taurus, it goes to the 8th house with 3 other planets. There's 4 planets in the 8th house. Let me explain for those of you that have no astrology understanding. What is the 8th house? Well, you know what I always tell my students, and this is a fact. It deals with the 3 ways that people control one another. And let me just say what they are. Number 1 is money. Number 2 is sex. And number 3 is death. These are all things the 8th house deals specifically with. Now, it's also the house that can deal with corruption. It's the house that can deal with seedy, dark things. It deals with, and believe it or not, it does deal with death. But most of the time, for people that have a really strong 8th house, death comes through unnatural ways. Now, the 12th house deals with death as well, but it's more of a natural progression of old age, getting old and getting sick and passing on. Whereas the 8th house can deal with suicide and murder. Look at her 8th house. Okay, so I think you're starting to understand a little bit about astrology here. When I pulled up her chart, it's like, okay, this doesn't surprise me in the least. This is what she's in prison for, this scandal of sex trafficking with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I believe this goes way deeper than that. And really, it does allude to that in her chart. This whole scandalous affair with Epstein wasn't just about the sex trafficking. It dealt with so much more deeper things. And it deals with control. What do I say the 8th house deals with? Control, how we control people. So it deals with big, big money. We're talking about the controls that control the world. We're talking the ones above, the leaders, the politicians, the actors, the musicians. This is like going a step higher to the core, the essence of what this whole scandalous thing's about. This is the 8th house. It's dark, and it can deal with a lot of money. The 8th house deals with huge money. Now, and money through other people. Now, the 8th house isn't all bad. So many of you out there probably have planets in your 8th house, because the 8th house makes you interested in metaphysical sciences, because you want to understand what's beyond this world. It's what's beyond death. So people with planets in this house can be very, very psychic, can be healers with metaphysical ways about them. It can deal with so many deep things, but what it ultimately can deal with on the positive side is major transformational changes. And it's actually the house of psychology. And many say astrology, because it deals with finding answers. It's the house of research, getting to the core, getting to the bottom of things. And I will say that Albert Einstein, as well as anyone that deals with science, such as Elon Musk. Okay, so Einstein, Elon Musk actually both of them have Rahu and Mars conjunct in the 8th house, because they get to the core and the bottom of science. They're in Capricorn, which is Mars is exalted. They both have a Gemini ascendant. But I'm just saying the 8th house is not all corruption and dark and difficult. But for most people that have planets in the 8th house, they always agree with me, because this is true. At some point in their life, they will go through an experience that will be disgraceful or humiliation, or deal with humiliation. And that can deal with people in their family, that this is the cause of the root. It's not necessarily because they did anything wrong, but this is what the 8th house energy is about, disgrace and humiliation as well. All right, so what does this chart with 4 planets in the 8th house tell me? Well, the ruler of her chart going to the 8th house, the ruler of the chart, which in this case is Venus, Wherever the ruler goes is going to be a focus throughout your life. 8th house matters. Her Mars is there. And Mars actually rules the 7th house. What is the 7th house? Marriage and partnerships. So she's been involved with her partners are 8th house people. Ruler of the 7th house, Scorpio is there on her 7th house. Mars rules Scorpio. The ruler of her marriage partner is 8th house matters, dark, difficult. People that have the ruler of the 7th house of marriage and partnerships in the 8th house have very difficult relationships, period. Yes, they can get over it, but they do have to deal with it. And that goes for the ruler of the 8th as well, going to the 7th. But in this case, she's got the ruler of the 7th in the 8th. Really difficult relationships. And it's Mars. Mars also rules the 12th house, which interestingly enough is the house of prison, imprisonment, and endings and loss. And that ruler also rules the 7th house. Her partner was in prison and there was a loss. Now her sun sits in the 8th house. And we know the sun deals specifically with the father. And Ghislaine Maxwell, because of her father, that is why she met Epstein, and that is why she was in the business she was in. Her father died disgracefully. He somehow committed suicide, and we know he was murdered as well, because he was dealing with very, very powerful people's money. And I think he had a Ponzi scheme right before he had stolen a lot of money from some very powerful people. And they don't let you get by with that. So his life ended. And Ghislaine worked with her father. And they dealt with world leaders and people of power. They say it all revolves back to even the CIA, and you know, I'm not even going to go where it all took me and what I understand today. But the sun is the father. It's in the 8th house. Her father was corrupt, and you know what else I'll say? Anyone, Ghislaine, she has been said by many of the victims that went through this child sex trafficking. They said she was part of it. They said that they could understand Epstein, but not her participating in these vile acts. That's what many of them said. And by the way, Victoria, she mysteriously died last April, suicide again. And she's the one that they actually have the photo of her being with Prince Andrew. But what I want to say about this and Ghislaine is that she was guilty of finding the girls, bringing them in. And these girls' lives were destroyed. Not to mention her dealings probably with world leaders and big money. None of this would have happened if that weren't for power, control, and money. This is all 8th house definitions. And the sun is there. I will say too, the Sun, Mercury, and Venus are even in the very destructive nakshatra called Mula. Mula is a nakshatra that deals with destruction. The god of destruction rules it. So moving on, even Mercury is there in this house. And Mercury is the planet that deals with communications, information. And what I find very, very interesting is all of a sudden they're opening up communications with her while transiting Jupiter in the heavens is exactly aspecting Mercury in the 8th house. They want her to come out and tell the truth about the Epstein files. Who's on that list? But what's more important, which probably won't happen, is the people above the people on the list. That's where this needs to go. But I think, I'm pretty certain, that if Ghislaine were to reveal anything to do with that, she's gone. She's gone. And therefore, as these files are being reopened and they're asking her to come out and speak, will she tell the truth? I mean, the woman's in prison for some pretty vile acts. Are you going to believe her? But here's how I look astrologically, for the most part, to see if people are truthful. The 2nd house is the house of our speech. Well, our words, our speech. And the 9th house is the house of truth as well. So looking at the ruling planet of the 2nd house of our speech, it's Gemini there, which is ruled by Mercury, but the ruling planet of speech goes to the 8th house, which is notorious for corruption and lying. So I don't think we can believe what she has to say. She's going to say whatever she can to get out. That probably isn't the truth. And she probably will have a script by the people who controlled her in the first place. And if she doesn't follow that script, then she is gone. She is being controlled. So, looking at the ruling planet of the 8th house. The 8th house is Sagittarius. That means Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So Jupiter rules her 8th house, and it goes to the 9th house, which is the house of the truth. Once again, we're seeing someone that's not truthful. Furthermore, in Vedic astrology, the 9th house is the father. So the ruling planet of the 8th house of corruption and scandals and secrets goes to the 9th house of the father. Another indication about her father. And even K2 is with it. And K2 does represent losses. Saturn's there in the 9th house. She was really close to her father. They were both involved in all of the corruption and the crime. But let's hop over here to look at her moon, because her moon tells us a lot about her. Her moon is in Cancer. She is very, very sensitive. She may come off as hard, as tough as nails, but she's very sensitive inside. But she's got Rahu conjunct the moon. What does that tell you? She's extreme, emotionally extreme. Rahu can be obsessive compulsive, and the moon is the mind. So she is obsessive compulsive, and probably in many ways that we don't want to discuss here. She's got some real issues. And that's another thing I wanted to say. With all of this interaction with her father and all of this darkness, people that inflict pain on others in any way of a sexual connotation means that as children, they probably experience the same thing. This has not been discussed, but I can guarantee you with her 8th house, she was abused as a child as well. But going back to the moon, this is her mind. Emotional turmoil and extremes and obsessions. And it's even in the nakshatra called Aslesha, which deals with the snake, sneaky, underhanded. But notice how the moon sits all by itself, away from all the other planets. Yes, it's with Rahu, but Rahu is not a planet. And Rahu disturbs the moon. It means she felt isolated and alone and never supported. This is an isolated moon. And the outer planets don't count either. So even though you're seeing Uranus and Pluto in the next house over, they are not part of the scheme dealing with Vedic astrology. So her moon sits way over there, away from all the planets, feeling isolated and alone. That's how she felt. She didn't get the support from her mother because the moon is the mother and the moon is isolated. Plus with Rahu, her mother was not helpful either. So now we know a little bit about her. Let's look at where things are going. What I find fascinating is that she just entered Rahu's dasha. This was October of 2023. Whenever you change dashas, your whole life will change dramatically. Now she was put into jail in the Mars dasha. No surprise with Mars being there in the 8th house. Mars dasha 7 years, so she just started Rahu, which represents a major shift and change in her life, starting around the end of the year 2023. Rahu's dasha is 18 years long. And in the beginning phase, Rahu, which lasts from October 16th of 2023 through June 28th of 2026, this is where all of the dramatic changes are occurring with her in her life. So all this has come up right now. Her Rahu sits in the 3rd house with the moon, representing information that's about to come out that she's here to deliver. Now, looking at all of this, if she doesn't answer this line of questioning correctly, she might be the next to commit suicide. None of these people have committed suicide, and we know it. Who is at the upper hand of all of this? I'm telling you, it is the elites. It is, well, it's like, you know what? The Illuminati. They control everything. They've been controlling all of this too. And it's deeper than you think. Yes, it deals with all of this disgusting sex trafficking in children. It's just the most dark thing conceivable in the world. But it also deals with huge amounts of money beyond rich men, richest men in the world's money. It goes way beyond that, because let me just say, the richest men in the world, so-called Bill Gates, have been tied up into all of this. And all I'm trying to say is the richest of the rich are not going to be in Forbes magazine. They're beyond that, but they control everything. But here's the thing. Here's what I wanted to get to, aside from all of that. Transiting Saturn and Neptune have been conjunct for June, July, and now August, and will be pretty much on and off together till around next March. Saturn is reality, and Neptune is illusions, secrets. It deals with all the things we can't see, we don't know. But Saturn is reality, so it brings it out. And let me tell you, the main thing that I think of when I think about Neptune is cults. This is a cult at the highest degree, dealing with all of this. Getting these people to succumb to going to this place with these children. That is a cult. And more than that. So, Saturn with Neptune brings out the cults that have been going on for so long. A lot of them say it's satanic. So, I'm not going to go wherever this, but that would definitely ascribe to a cult. But here is what I'm seeing. As I speak, and all of this is coming out right now, Saturn and Neptune sit at 7 degrees, transiting. Notice where her natal Mars sits. 7 degrees. In other words, Saturn's full 10th aspect, its square, is dead on to her natal Mars, which is in the 8th house of death, ruling the 12th house of endings in prison. And transiting Mars around August 8th will square that position of natal Mars while Saturn-Neptune aspects them all together at the same time. We actually have Mars, natal Mars, at the midpoint of transiting Mars and the Saturn-Neptune. Saturn-Neptune are going to exactly oppose Mars. Both transiting in the sky, and they all hit her natal Mars in the 8th house. Now, I know that this is exact around August 8th. So what I'm saying is, within a week's time, around August 8th, something crucial is coming out. And if you'll notice, even her natal Uranus sits at 7 degrees. Something sudden and unexpected could happen because Saturn, Neptune are in a quincunx to her natal Uranus. Quincunxes are the aspect that can deal with death or accidents. So just to surmise it all up, something is happening in August. There is way too much energy with that Neptune-Saturn. They'll be squaring her Mars the entire next few months. And then eventually, if she makes it past this time, Saturn will be aspecting, squaring. So with Neptune, her sun sits at 10 degrees. Saturn is going to retrograde back to 0 degrees, come up by next probably February through April. It will be squaring her sun. And the sun is the life force. Saturn could extinguish that. But I want to say this, and really, this is so dark, and this is so beyond anything that I really want to talk about anymore. So this is going to be probably it for me, I hope. Not to talk about this anymore, because we all need some upliftment. But here's what I do want to leave you with. Around the August 8th, where transiting Mars aspects her natal Mars, and Saturn-Neptune aspect her natal Mars, she is in danger. And remember, the 8th house deals with suicides and murder. I don't think it's going to be suicide, but here is, she is in utmost danger. We will see what she comes out with. And hopefully this can somehow bring some type of peace to this total nightmare that has been created and she was a part of. So I'm just going to leave it up to the divine Whatever needs to happen will happen, and there will be a healing. The truth must come out. Although I don't know that it can. There's way too much behind all this, but we will see. At least with too many suicides that have been happening, we know this is bigger than what the media is telling us. So I'll leave it at that. So remember, if you would like more information on me, if you would like to sign up for my free newsletter, be part of my Patreon, go to my website, galacticcenter.org. And if you would like to study with me, become my student, go to my university website, which is University of Vedic Astrology.com. But if you want to know all these transits, like what I'm doing with Ghislaine's chart, you want to know about it going on in your chart, this is where you want to sign up for the Galactic Planner. Go to galacticplanner.com. Thank you.